South Africa's top prosecutor announced today that he will not pursue corruption charges against Jacob Zuma, the man likely to become the country's next president. Zuma was accused of accepting bribes to thwart a probe into wrongdoing by a French arms company. He has faced the possibility of trial since 2003, when prosecutors at first said there was enough evidence to do so. Zuma has maintained he is innocent and that he was being persecuted for political reasons. He has remained the presidential candidate for the African National Congress and is expected to ride his party's dominance to power in the elections set for April the 22nd. Here's Onkgopotse JJ, the acting director of public prosecutions of South Africa's National Prosecution Authority, on making what South Africans are calling a controversial decision.
I have come to the difficult conclusion that it is neither possible nor desirable for the NPA to continue with the prosecution of Mr. Zuma. And this becomes applicable to Tind and others. As an officer of the court, I feel personally wronged and betrayed that on a number of occasions I have given evidence under oath that there has not been any meddling or manipulation of the process in this matter. It is with a great regret that I have to say today that in relation to this case, I cannot see my way clear to go to court in future and give the nation this assurance.
Any concerns? On the line today, we have Onkgopotse JJ Tabane, who is the Chief Information Officer of opposition party COPE in South Africa, to share his thoughts on the news. Thank you, JJ, for talking to us on Vox Africa. There has been mixed reactions to the Jacob Zuma corruption charges being dropped. The obvious question is, what is COPE's reaction to the news?
Well, we're very disappointed at the turn of events because the reasons that were advanced for the dropping of those charges do not tell us as South Africans whether the ANC president is guilty or otherwise in terms of the original charges which have been investigated over an 8-year period. What they tell us is that there has been machinations within the NPA or ill motive within some of the officials of the NPA, but they do not, in our view, that means that this case needs to be resolved. We believe that these two things is the apparent interference, the work of the NPA, and the corruption charges, which relate to bribery, racketeering, and so on, must be treated separately. So Zuma still must clear his name in an open court. Otherwise, we believe that he will continue to have a cloud hanging over his head, quite apart from the fact that the NPA itself has been tainted in the process.
JJ, do you believe that the ruling party ANC is bending the law to suit itself, especially now with opposition parties like yourself emerging as a threat to the country's leadership? And do you think the prosecutor was faced with pressure to drop the charges?
Absolutely, but that's our point. We are worried that this is a result of the continued disregard of the law by the ANC. We know that the ANC has put pressure on all and sundry, from the cabinet who wanted to appeal the decision, as you recall, of Judge Nicholson, to the NPA head himself. We have information at our disposal that suggests that the ANC did not just fold its arms, but had been doing everything in its power to pressure the NPA ahead of an election in 2 weeks to drop these charges. But what it says to us is that it just shows what we have been saying, that our country is on a slippery slope, with a government that is willing to cause a situation which will undermine the NPA and therefore undermine the rule of law.
Overall, what has been the reaction of South Africans and what is COPE planning to do next?
All you have to look at is the newspaper editorials over the last week, that since it's been anticipated that the charges may be dropped. There's not a single newspaper that has celebrated that issue. Everyone has said this is a slippery slope. Everyone has said this is danger for our constitution. We are obviously not going to fold our arms. We don't just want to sit and wait for the election and say, well, we hope they will be voted out of power. Obviously, we'll intensify our campaign to show our people the dangers of what this means for our country. But also, that we are going to be working with other opposition parties to really rally the country to protest against this issue. So as we speak now, there will be a meeting of a number of like-minded organizations and opposition parties in particular who will determine a course of action over the next few days.
Let's leave it there. Thank you very much, Onkgopotse JJ Tabane, the Chief Information Officer of COPE in South Africa.